Have you ever wondered why Brazil seems to produce football legends almost effortlessly? Every generation, a new superstar appears. Pelé, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Kaká, Neymar, Vinicius Jr. While other countries spend billions building academies and developing talent, Brazil keeps creating world-class footballers as if it were simply part of nature. Brazil has won more FIFA World Cups than any other nation on earth. 5 times, the country has stood on top of the football world. Yet Brazil isn't the richest country. It doesn't have the largest population. It doesn't have the most advanced facilities. So what exactly is happening? Why does this one nation continue producing football legends generation after generation? The answer isn't a secret academy or a revolutionary coaching system. It's something much bigger. It's a culture, a lifestyle, and a national obsession that begins almost from birth. To understand Brazil's football dominance, we first need to understand just how deeply football is woven into Brazilian life. In many countries, football is a sport. In Brazil, football is part of the national identity. It is discussed in homes, schools, workplaces, restaurants, and on street corners. It is played on beaches, in parks, on dirt fields, in crowded neighborhoods, and even in narrow alleyways. Football isn't something Brazilians do. Football is something Brazilians live. Imagine growing up in a place where nearly everyone around you loves the same game. Your parents watch it. Your friends play it. Your neighbors talk about it. Your heroes are footballers. From the moment a child can walk, a football is never far away. In many parts of Brazil, children don't need organized training sessions to fall in love with football. The game surrounds them every day. This constant exposure creates an environment where talent can naturally develop. One of the biggest reasons Brazil produces so many skilled players is simple. Brazilian children play an enormous amount of football. While some young athletes around the world might train a few hours each week, many Brazilian children spend countless hours with a ball at their feet. The more time spent practicing any skill, the better that skill becomes. It sounds obvious, but this is where Brazil gains a massive advantage. However, it's not just the quantity of football that matters. It's the type of football being played. And that brings us to one of the most important secrets behind Brazil's success. A game called futsal. If you've never heard of futsal, think of it as football's smaller, faster cousin. It is played indoors on a much smaller field with fewer players and a smaller ball. Because space is limited, players have less time to think and react. They must make decisions instantly. They must control the ball perfectly. They must dribble in tight spaces. Every mistake is punished immediately. This environment forces players to develop extraordinary technical skills. A young player in futsal might touch the ball many more times in a single game than they would in a traditional football match. More touches mean more learning. More learning means faster improvement. Many of Brazil's greatest players developed their skills through futsal. Ronaldinho often credited futsal for helping him become the player he was. Neymar spent years playing futsal as a child. Countless Brazilian stars followed the same path. The small courts taught them creativity, balance, ball control, and quick decision-making. These are exactly the skills that later made them so dangerous on the world's biggest football stages. Watch highlights of Brazilian legends and you'll notice something special. Their style often looks different. The tricks, the flair, the confidence, the ability to escape pressure in impossible situations. Much of that comes from years spent playing in tight spaces where creativity wasn't optional. It was necessary. Another factor that has shaped Brazilian football is the country's unique relationship with adversity. Now, it's important not to romanticize poverty. Poverty creates serious challenges and hardships. But throughout Brazilian football history, many legendary players grew up with limited resources. Some children didn't have access to expensive training facilities. Some couldn't afford proper equipment. Some played barefoot. Others created makeshift footballs using whatever materials they could find. They learned to adapt. They learned to improvise. They learned to solve problems. When children constantly find creative ways to play despite limitations, they often develop unusual skills and instincts. They become resourceful. They become imaginative. They learn to think differently. This creativity has become one of the defining characteristics of Brazilian football. Many football fans around the world associate Brazil with beautiful football. The phrase Joga Bonito, which translates to the beautiful game, is often linked to Brazilian football culture. Brazilian players are famous for expressing themselves on the field. They dribble. They take risks. They entertain. While some football systems prioritize structure and discipline above all else, Brazilian football has traditionally encouraged individuality and flair. This doesn't mean Brazilian players ignore tactics. It means creativity is valued alongside discipline. Young players grow up believing that football should be joyful. That joy often translates into confidence, and confidence is one of the most powerful weapons in sports. Another major reason Brazil produces so many football legends is the power of role models. Every generation of Brazilian children grows up watching heroes who came before them. Imagine being a young child and seeing Pelé become a global icon. Then Ronaldo dominates world football. Then Ronaldinho dazzles crowds with impossible skills. Then Kaká wins the Ballon d'Or. Then Neymar becomes one of the biggest stars on the planet. These players become living proof that success is possible. Children don't just dream about becoming footballers. They see examples of people who already achieved it. The dream feels real. Role models create inspiration, but inspiration alone isn't enough. Brazil also benefits from an enormous football ecosystem. Across the country, clubs and scouts constantly search for young talent. Thousands upon thousands of children compete for opportunities. The talent pool is massive. Think of it like a giant funnel. Millions of children play football. Hundreds of thousands play seriously. Tens of thousands join organized systems. Thousands reach elite youth levels. Hundreds become professionals. A small number become stars. And a few become legends. When so many people are competing, extraordinary talent eventually rises to the top. Brazil's population alone gives it a huge advantage. Combine that population with a football-obsessed culture, and the result is a seemingly endless supply of talented players. Brazil also benefits from diversity in playing environments. Young players don't all come through identical systems. Some learn on beaches. Some learn in cities. Some learn in rural areas. Some develop through futsal. Others grow through street football. Different environments create different styles of players. Street football, in particular, has had a huge influence on Brazilian football culture. Street games are often unstructured. There are fewer rules. Players constantly improvise. They learn tricks. They experiment. They develop instincts that can't always be taught in formal coaching sessions. This freedom encourages creativity. Instead of worrying about making mistakes, players learn to express themselves. That willingness to take risks often separates great players from ordinary ones. Of course, producing football legends isn't easy. For every superstar who reaches the top, countless talented players never make it. The competition is fierce. The journey is difficult. Success requires dedication, sacrifice, and a tremendous amount of hard work. But what makes Brazil special is that the country continuously creates an environment where exceptional talent has a chance to emerge. The culture encourages football. Communities support football. Children play football. Heroes inspire football. Opportunities exist for football. Every part of the system pushes in the same direction. Even during periods when Brazil struggles internationally, the flow of talent never completely stops. Critics sometimes claim Brazilian football has declined. Yet new stars continue to appear. Vinicius Jr., Rodrigo, Endrick, and many others represent the latest generation carrying the tradition forward. This consistency isn't an accident. It is the result of decades of football culture being passed from one generation to the next. A child watches their hero. That child grows up and becomes a star. Then another child watches them. The cycle continues. Perhaps the most remarkable thing about Brazil's football success is that it cannot be copied easily. Other countries can build academies. They can hire coaches. They can invest money. But creating a culture takes generations. It requires millions of people sharing the same passion and passing it on year after year. Brazil's greatest football factory isn't a building. It isn't a training center. It isn't a coaching manual. It's the country itself. From the beaches of Rio de Janeiro to crowded city streets, From small futsal courts to giant stadiums, football is everywhere. Children grow up surrounded by the game. They play constantly. They learn creativity. They develop confidence. They dream of becoming the next legend. And when millions of children share that dream every single year, extraordinary things start to happen. That's why Brazil keeps producing football legends. Not because of one secret, not because of one coach, not because of one academy, but because an entire nation has turned football into part of its identity. And when football becomes part of a country's identity, legends become inevitable.